Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is John Griemer. I'm the Chief Sales Officer at LYNQ and I'm your host today. I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague Claire Mann, who is presenting Your Business Optimised. So just a little housekeeping before we get started. You'll all be put on mute, and if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the questions box in your GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll do our best to answer them either during the Q&A towards the end of the meeting or sometime tomorrow morning. To make this session as interactive as possible, we'll be running a poll. Please complete the poll as it appears on your screen. We've also provided you with a really helpful handout which you can download. So if you go to handouts, you can download the PDF that we've made available to you. And for those of you that may not be aware, LYNQ provides small to mid-sized manufacturers with effective resource management in a single plug-and-play solution. Today, LYNQ MES improves the effectiveness of more than 10,000 resources, increasing efficiency, productivity, and profitability of manufacturers. Now, without further ado, we'll turn this over to Claire.
Thanks for the introduction, John, and welcome everybody. I'm really pleased to be invited to deliver this presentation today on how LYNQ can help you easily track production issues and downtime. A little bit about myself before we get going. So my name is Claire Mann and I am a solutions consultant here at LYNQ. I began my foray into manufacturing over 8 years ago when I became a production and materials planner in the food and beverage industry. So prior to this, I was also a scheduler for a large technology company, managing the schedules of over 30 engineers. So I used my first-hand experience to really understand the needs of our customers and to implement LYNQ MES across many sectors, and particularly enjoy sharing the benefits of real-time visibility on the shop floor. So as you'll see, I've popped my email address and LinkedIn details on the screen. So if you do have any questions that you don't manage to ask during the webinar, please feel free to contact me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So I'm going to turn the camera off so we don't have any bandwidth issues. So today we're going to be looking at optimization. So the definition of optimization is an act, process, or methodology of making something as functional or effective as possible. In a manufacturing environment, there are some challenges that cannot be entirely eradicated. However, we should look to how we can minimize their impact. Preventing minor outages from becoming big problems is essential in keeping schedules on track. Being able to track production issues in real time can help focus your attention on eliminating loss at source and make improvements in areas that will increase productivity. So how can LYNQ help you achieve this? So LYNQ provides measurement and analysis to target loss, supporting the principles of Lean Six Sigma and your continuous improvement initiatives. This helps to bring your production environment under control, while an ability to provide documents online helps you avoid inefficient and costly paper trails. Today, we're going to look specifically at the 4 functionalities here. And we're going to look at paperless shop floor, instant messaging, configurable alerts, and issue management. The need for continuous improvement is, however, nothing new. Shigeo Shingo was a Japanese industrial engineer who was considered as the world's leading expert on manufacturing practices and the Toyota production system. Quite simply, he stated that improvement usually means doing something that we have never done before. Before we consider how we optimize our business and look at what we can do differently, we must also consider that measurement is the first step that leads to control and eventually improvement. So some of the challenges that our customers frequently face are paper trails on the shop floor. They can be ineffective, paper gets lost, relying on physical copies of drawings, work instructions, paper travelers is not only inefficient, but is also not the most environmentally friendly method. Manufacturing facilities can be large and noisy, as well as potentially having strict protocols. So things like PPE, hygiene, health and safety. So when faced with challenges that require quick action and swift communication, it's key that we execute this as quickly as possible. So instant messaging becomes the go-to solution to communicate directly with the appropriate person, or in fact, people. The ability to communicate promptly and even set automatic alerts is instrumental in being able to react. So for example, when a machine goes down, we want to ensure that the key personnel are alerted as soon as possible to mitigate the severity of any potential losses. We also want to track and measure such downtime for continuous improvement. Having records of issues removes reliance upon tacit knowledge and safeguards against losing history when personnel change. So we have our first poll for you. So how are you currently tracking your resource downtime, if at all? So I'll give you a few moments to select your answer. Great, thank you all. So it looks as though we've got almost an equal split between spreadsheets and not at all, which is something we hear frequently. So even with spreadsheets, it's entirely possible that the data captured could be pretty unreliable or incomplete. And I guess it's probably likely that it will require significant effort to collate before even attempting to analyze this data. So as mentioned earlier, we must be able to measure something before we can look to improve it. It's really difficult to make improvements when using either of these methods to track your downtime. Before we move to today's demonstration, let's review some of the benefits that can be gained from a successful optimization. So if you bear these in mind as I show you how easily we can implement a paperless shop floor, use instant messaging and track production issues and customize alerts, both from the perspective of a shop floor employee and those that will be analyzing this. And the end result here is we should be able to resolve issues fast. We should be able to reduce downtime, improve quality, increase output, and most importantly, remain competitive. So let's switch to the solution. So as you can see, the solution here is predominantly web-based, so it can be accessed on multiple devices on the shop floor from the web browser. And this is our LYNQ homepage. So this is primarily where our supervisors and managers will navigate through our three key areas of planning, workforce, and factory to track what's going on the shop floor in real time. So before we look at downtime itself, we should also be aware that optimization can be achieved throughout the manufacturing process and actually right from the start. So top right here, we can see our document library. So we've touched upon the use of costly, time-consuming and unreliable paper trails already. So let's have a look and see how we can eliminate them. So the document library can be used to manage your documentation. So this is a document repository. We can add files, forms, and even links. So if you're using a document management system, perhaps for version control, or we have the ability to add a link maybe to an instructional video, we can do that too. We have this icon that you'll see throughout the solution, and this tells us that we have documents present. So I happen to know today that we have job 660 scheduled first. So if we take a look at what we've got here, we see associated with the item code itself, we have already got an assembly drawing and an inspection form, which can be edited throughout the manufacturing process. We can add files based on customer, job, stock code, and the same with forms and so on. So let's add a document to the job itself here first. So I'm going to add a new assembly drawing here. And once we save this, we will be able to see that this is now available for this job here. in addition to a paperless shop floor, and we will visit some of the other things we can do to assist in this as we work through the demonstration. Visibility has so many benefits, not least allowing you to react quickly when needed. As downtime is inevitable and it is often cited as one of the largest loss categories, it's really important that we minimize the impact that it can have on our effectiveness. So using LYNQ data collection, we can do this in real time for both employees and machines. So we're going to follow a snippet of our employee Jane's data here, and we're going to start by clocking her in at the entrance of the building. So we get a notification to confirm that Jane is clocked in, and instantly we're going to collect Jane's time. Even though this is idle time, we want full visibility of her day. As Jane perhaps moves through the facility and she knows she's going to work in the wheel assembly today, we can clock her into her second terminal. So as a verification, we can see that Jane is in an indirect downtime with no current task. So just a few things to note here. We're firstly seeing the employee workbench. So there's nothing in the job list at present. And we have some additional options here. One of the key ones is probably break, messages, and the ability to raise our production issues. So we see something similar for our equipment, and we follow actually the same process. So we're going to turn the equipment on. This time we see our job list, and this is the jobs that's scheduled for this piece of equipment within the specified time frame. So here's our job 660. We're going to look at operation 2. So if we start this, keeping with the theme of tracking throughout the solution, we can see now that Jane is in direct uptime, and so is the equipment. This is further verified next to the operation itself, where we've got our employee icon and our equipment there too. So much like our employee workbench, we also have some additional options down here. We'll see how these work in just a moment. So it's likely that Jane will spend most of her time in her own workbench as an employee. And we can see here our paperclip icon. So we can open our assembly drawing that we attached just a moment ago. Jane can use this on her device on the shop floor. And we can open our inspection form, and this can be edited as we also work through. So let's pop a Y in there to say yes, and we can save that also. So it's entirely possible that things don't always run smoothly, and Jane may have experienced an issue on the shop floor. So using our production issue, which is entirely customizable, we can set these to your specific requirements. Today we're going to assume that Jane is experiencing some minor stops, perhaps for cleaning or checking. So let's say there's some residue on the belt. And we have created our production issue, so we're keeping all of those that require this information informed in real time. Jane continues to work, and unfortunately, due to this issue that we have spotted, the equipment goes down. This time we're going to action this from the equipment workbench. So if we switch over here, we perhaps, before we do this, might want to take a look at our order report, where we can see maybe our preceding and subsequent operations. We may want to be aware that this is likely to run late throughout. And we've also got narrations as well that we can see. And we're going to put the equipment now into a general breakdown status. From here, we have the ability to email directly a service engineer. So this will go as soon as we hit this, mitigating any risk of delays with communication. And we'll also get a confirmation in a moment when that has been sent. So as we return to the workbench, we'll see that Jane is still in a direct uptime. So we can configure this to also change the status of the employee. However, this could be a fix within 5 minutes. It's also likely that we still want Jane's time attributed to this particular order. She's actually still available, so we don't want to affect the availability KPI there. But this will probably show up as a performance impact on the performance as we report against the job. In this instance, Jane needs to make a decision how to proceed. So we're going to send a message to a supervisor, and you'll notice that there's no option here to select a recipient. We select a new one, we simply fill it in and press send. So we're going to tell our supervisor that we're going to go to break early whilst the equipment is being fixed. Now this will go to a predefined recipient based on the hierarchy in the software. And most importantly now, we want to change Jane's status to break to reflect what is happening on the shop floor. So whilst we've been executing all this, there are a few places that this will be visible within the software. So we're instantly drawn to our message center and issue log up the top here. So if we look at our issues first, we should see 2. So we can straight away see our minor stops that we created and the comments associated with this. We've got our residue on the belt. And then preceding this, we have our actual breakdown. So these issues can be assigned to other people, and we can assign that to a colleague, and then they can resolve this as and when appropriate. And likewise, we can resolve anything that we have in our inbox there. Message center as well, we've received a couple of alerts and a message. So we can configure this to receive issues, alerts, messages, or a combination of. And we can see we've got our alert here that will tell us that the equipment has gone into breakdown. And we've also got our message here from Jane telling us that she's going to break early whilst it's fixed. So we've been alerted instantly as these things have happened on the shop floor. There's also a few other places that we'll clearly be able to see at all times what is happening. So we go to our employee status, we can see Jane here. We can see she's gone to break, we can see what she was previously working on, and we'll also have our production issue here highlighted as well. We can see the same if we look at the equipment, but of course this time we've got our MBWA that is in a general breakdown status. And once again, we can see our alerts and our issues. We can also see this on the job status. So we are never losing sight of particularly the issues, but the execution of these jobs on the shop floor. So here's our 660. We can currently see a large list, but we can actually just look at those that are scheduled perhaps, and we can filter them. And if we drill into this even further, we can access those issues at the bottom here. And once again, we're still never losing sight of our attachments. So it's visible throughout the solution along with our actual hours, whether we've manufactured any, and the execution throughout operations. So let's say Jane has finished her break and she's going to go back to the workbench. So she returns to the shop floor, she goes back to the workbench, and we go back to our previous status. So this, we've still got this task here outstanding. Unfortunately, the equipment is still not up and running. So we're going to stop this task, and we're going to see if we could perhaps run it on our secondary piece of equipment. So we're going to start the process again. We're going to turn the equipment on. But this time we can see that it's not scheduled, of course, to run here. So we need to deviate from our schedule. So we're going to use this function here. So this allows us to deviate away from the plan and perhaps run tasks, operations on other equipment. So this can be password protected if need be. We can disable it. From here, we're going to pick back up our operation to 660. And we are now running this on our MBWA02 and still tracking our downtime against our initial machine here. So let's go back to our home page. So it's not just our supervisors and production managers that perhaps are going to need to see this sort of information. One of the key people are probably our planners. So if we go to our production plan here, and let's refresh this, we can also still see that our 660 has an issue here highlighted in red. And if we hover over, it tells us that we've got one production issue. So it's likely that we could have this displaying on the shop floor. Everybody throughout the business is aware that there is an issue with this, and we have the ability, as before, to drill into this and see what's going on. In terms of alerts, we also have some options to set these rather than basing them on something such as a status change. I've already mentioned that perhaps Jane's performance may be affected by this downtime later. We can set alerts to be generated based on thresholds. And another one that is quite important for accurate data is we can also do time since clock in, for example. So perhaps your employees only ever work 8-hour shifts. So if they're ever clocked in for longer than this, we may want to be notified to be able to mitigate the risk of perhaps employees forget to clock out, and we'll be collecting data against jobs for far longer than they've actually been working on them. So everything that we've collected here, we are storing for analysis. So we are going to want to look at our equipment analysis here based on our machine going into downtime. I'm actually going to take us back to the whole of last month because I know we've collated a whole month's worth of data here. This can be run for a number of resources like we have here. We have 10 resources, or you can do it for individual pieces of equipment or perhaps different groups of equipment. And the really important thing in terms of issues is we can break down exactly how many hours and actually the percentage of time that we have experienced major adjustments, equipment failures, and so on. So it is possible that we've potentially already mitigated some of this downtime or minimized it because we've used messaging to communicate quickly. We've raised alerts to allow us to notify the correct people within the business, or we've been tracking our issues and have already noticed things that are reoccurring. This here allows us to see why our equipment isn't necessarily 100% effective 100% of the time. Do we need additional maintenance perhaps, or even investment in new equipment? So for more loss management, including the 6 big losses, please watch our up and coming webinar, Your Business Analysed, on March the 18th. So let's return to our slide deck and summarise the ways in which you can optimise your business. So today we've seen just some of the ways in which we can implement a paperless shop floor. As John mentioned, there is a handout as well in regards to webhooks for a more advanced approach using parameters. All the information about that is on your handout. We send instant messages for fast, efficient communication. We've received real-time alerts to allow us to react quickly. And we've raised issues on the shop floor, which can then be reviewed, assigned, and resolved.
Brilliant, thank you for that, Claire. We've got a few questions here, and let's start with Steve. Is there a way we can minimize the time employees need to be interacting with the workbench?
Absolutely. So we can set activities, so automatic events, for example, sending everyone to break or lunch at the same time. We can clock them in automatically. In fact, I have implemented a customer whereby we set all their equipment to turn on at a particular time during the day, eliminating the need to go to the equipment terminal. So we can always use things like barcode scanning as well. So there's multiple ways in which we can minimize the employees' interaction with the software itself.
It's a question from Bob. Can we ensure that analytics are only available for certain people to see?
Most definitely. So it relates back to what I've mentioned about the recipients of alerts and issues and so on. So the same way that we set up our hierarchy to determine where these things go, we also then assign our users to groups that have associated roles and therefore rights. So most commonly, our employees only tend to have access to the workbench, but we can manage them absolutely to give access as required.
Question from Jackie. Can messages, alerts be sent via email too?
They can, yes, there is no need to constantly be looking at the software. We can ensure that they are emailed as well, yes.
I think we can also provide audible alerts or audible alarms. That's something that things been requested in the past, so that's potentially an option as well. Yeah. So, how long does it take to set up an alert? Not one of your pre-configured alerts. It's another question there from Margaret.
Really simple. So in our configuration, we simply add a function to an action. So as we've seen, if we change a status, if we've got a button that we're using, we can just add to that we want an alert to be triggered at this point. So it can be added to most of the things that are in the solution already.
Wonderful. Last question from Alex. We use SharePoint to store all of our documentation. Can we have a connection to SharePoint? Is there a way to connect to SharePoint? I think that means.
You can, yes, absolutely. So the handout details a little more about using webhooks to achieve that. But absolutely, yes, it can be integrated to SharePoint as well as other third parties as well. Bartender, I think, is one that we've integrated with as well.
Okay, so for any doc management systems, full-blown doc management systems, there are options to connect with and bring those documents in. So you're showing the final revision of a document, so you've got that revision control. That's really brilliant. Thank you for that, Claire. Thanks for those questions. So just as you mentioned earlier on in the presentation, the next webinar is on the 18th of March, same time. I'm the lucky person presenting that webinar, so please register and join there. Also, lots of really valuable information on our website. Please take time to look at the resources that are available to you and get more familiar and educated around the LYNQ solution. All of our webinars are backed up, archived, and available to view on our website. So please take a look at that, the information there, and once we have done that, we'll be getting that recording over to you once we've backed this recording up, but it'll also be on our website in the archived section. Really appreciate your time attending this webinar today. I know you're all busy, but and Claire, excellent job. Thank you for working with me on this, and we look forward to seeing you all on the 18th of March. Thank you.